roster right now? What needs to be added?
Yeah, I think I've kind of maintained throughout the offseason that, number one, our goal is to put the best team together that we possibly can. And number two, we'll need to be open-minded about how we do that. Right now, I think we're still pursuing right-handed bat and hopeful that we'll be able to accomplish that. And then the other opportunity that we've talked about is adding to the bullpen.
You had identified that as far back as October, November, but right. Are you surprised how long it's taken to?
There's always some level of surprise, I guess. Unfortunately, we don't control the timeline exclusively, and obviously we haven't lined up on anything yet, but we'll continue to be as aggressive as we can.
Do you think that bat necessarily needs to be someone who would be in the lineup every day, or could it be a platoon bat?
I think there are probably a few different ways to approach that. I think balance most likely takes the shape of someone who's in the lineup pretty regularly, but also we've seen Alex, being very aggressive in mixing and matching and using the entire roster. So I think we have to be open to all paths that improve the team and don't want to close off any possible pathway.
As you look at right-handed hitters, how important is it that they're guys who actually hit lefties and not just right-handed for the sake of being right-handed?
Right. Yeah. I think we could make the same point about having a left-handed reliever, right? And what we're really after is evening out our splits versus right and versus left. And so the easiest way to do that traditionally is with a right-handed bat. But sure, and I think that brings the conversation often back to the fact that we have a number of left-handed hitters who are going to be in the lineup every day.
In terms of the bullpen, is there a type of reliever that you're looking for, in terms of whether it's strikeouts or length, or is there a model that you're trying to find?
Yeah, I mean, the snarky answer is one who can get outs, right? Of course, but I do think that there's an added benefit to relievers who can generate swings and misses, just in terms of their ability to strand runners, and so I think a number of the moves that we made this offseason to build out the bullpen was done with that in mind, and so we'll definitely have an eye for relievers who are able to generate swing and miss.
Do you feel like it's necessary right now to add a back-end guy, or could you go into the season with what you have right now in terms of bullpen?
Yeah, I think we feel good about the depth that we've accrued over not just this offseason, but probably the last year and a half or so. We have a number of guys who played meaningful roles for us last year. Certainly, there were some growing pains associated with that. So I think our focus is probably more on someone who has proven that they can pitch at the back end of a game, someone that we can rely on in leverage situations and hold leads late in games.
Right-handed bat, do you anticipate adding someone regardless versus just keeping the lineup the way it is?
So I think we're interested in making the right acquisition, not an acquisition for the sake of adding a player. We feel good about the guys that we have in camp, and like I said, we'll continue to pursue opportunities to upgrade. But I don't believe in adding a player simply to be able to kind of check a box. We want someone who's able to contribute big league wins in 2025.
How do you view second base at this point? Obviously, it's early in camp. It hasn't even started.
Yeah.
But just your options there, and kind of how you plan to evaluate what you're going to be evaluating with the guys that you have here going forward.
Yeah, I think the situation is probably a little bit different for each of the guys that will be getting reps at second base. We saw at times Hammy was able to be this really dynamic player on both sides of the ball, and added an element of speed and athleticism that was a real weapon. Vaughn will be the first person to kind of sit up here and say that last year was a struggle and a lost season in a lot of ways for him, but we're really optimistic about his ability to bounce back. He's worked really hard this offseason. He looks great. He's added about 20 pounds and believe that he's going to impact the ball even more. And then we're excited about seeing what the young guys are able to do in camp and the way that they're able to acclimate themselves to a big league environment. And Christian will get some reps at second base. I'm sure we're going to move Marcelo around. And I think given the the importance we've placed on the present and winning in 2025. We'll take the 26 guys on our opening day roster that we believe are going to best help us win games this year.
Have you had recent conversations with Alex Bregman or his representatives?
I'm not able to comment on free agents.
When you say move Marcel around, is that third, second, and shorter? Could you see left field too?
At this point, probably just in the infield. First big league camp, want to try to maintain some level of familiarity, but we're very excited about what a number of those young guys are going to bring, and want to ensure that this camp is productive, not just for us in terms of getting a chance to see them work, but for them in terms of the exposure that they're going to get to a big league environment.
It's currently constructed. Do you think this is a playoff team right now?
I do. Yes.
You do?
Yes.
Greg, at the end of last season, Sam talked to, it was Pete or Alex, but he spoke of extreme urgency internally and investing more than we did last year. Do you feel this offseason has reflected those issues?
Yeah. So I think urgency is kind of it's a difficult word to define because we tend to evaluate urgency in terms of outcomes. And I think the concepts that we've discussed, the pursuits that we've had, have been done so with a level of aggressiveness and urgency. But I also understand that ultimately we're going to be evaluated by the product that we put on the field and the number of games that we win.
I know you're 6 weeks out from the start of regular season, but is it your expectation that both Giolito and Whitlock are going to be ready to go for opening day?
Yeah, I think I would probably stop short of putting a specific timeline on those guys just because 6 weeks can be a really long time, especially in the life of a pitcher. But both of those guys are absolutely tracking, in a way that's really encouraging. I think if you were to speak to them, they absolutely have their sights set on being ready on opening day. And pitching depth is something that we've worked really hard to amass and feel good about it, and certainly those two guys are going to be a key part of it.
On the subject of pitching depth, Nick Pivetta is obviously still unsigned. You have to be careful about what you say about unsigned free agents.
Yeah.
But is that a balancing act where he could perhaps help you by coming back and provide depth, but also that closes the door on a comp pick that would come your way if you signed elsewhere? How much does that factor into your calculus there when it comes to somebody like that?
Yeah, so obviously going to avoid specifics here, but given where we are and like I said, the importance that we've placed on winning in 2025, we're going to make moves in line with that. I think there is a time where the needle is pointed more toward building for the future, and often my role is to balance both of those things. But there's no question that we're more calibrated toward winning in 2025 than we have in the past.
The two big-time right-handed bats out there, obviously Bregman and Arenado. Do you get a sense that something in that market that is close to a resolution on either one or both of those guys?
Yeah. So you can't speak specifically. I would just probably point to kind of where we are in the calendar and acknowledge that teams are reporting, camps are getting started, and for us here, I think it's important that we understand who our guys are in camp and try to work with the guys who are here right now.
Craig, you won a world championship with a team that really captured the city's imagination. A lot of characters on there. There was entertainment value. The city rallied around it. New England rallied around it. That was 2013. A lot has changed since then. There's Amazon Prime, there's Netflix, there's great streaming. You can sit at home, and people's attention can go elsewhere. When you build a team and a roster, do you have to factor in the entertainment value and getting people excited about baseball here in Boston?
Yeah, I think it's a fair question. I would argue that winning is entertainment, and so if we are anchored to putting a team on the field that is capable of winning, capable of making it to the postseason, then that is an entertaining brand of baseball. I would also say that just given kind kind of the construction of our roster. We've got athleticism and speed. I think we saw that with, you know, our three outfielders last year, and then I talked about what Hammy can bring. You know, so I do think that we will play an exciting, athletic brand of baseball. If I get too caught up in kind of the entertainment side, I think we could lose sight of, you know, what we are here to do, which is win baseball.
Would you guys talk about that? Because there were times last year when Fenway Park was overrun by fans from other teams. You guys were 5 games under 500 last year. I mean, 10 years ago, that wouldn't have been the case at all. I mean, do you guys talk about that? Like, hey, this guy's a fit for Boston. Fans are going to love him. And does that help win games in any way? Clubhouse guys, getting people behind the team, fans excited about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think you know, Fenway Park is this truly unique you know, venue, and there are, you know, players on other teams who will talk about there being no better place, you know, to come and play. And when players get here and we're winning, we saw it at times last year how you know, how passionate the fan base is, how exciting and electric that environment can be. And I would never say that makeup doesn't matter, that chemistry in a clubhouse doesn't matter. As you mentioned, you know, our 2013 team was exemplary of that. But I think at the same time, you know, we have to be mindful of, like, guys who can thrive in Fenway are typically like really good players who are super competitive, you know, and prioritize winning above
Mentally
any individual accomplishment, and certainly mentally tough as well.
Who do you identify at this point as ninth inning candidates in-house?
Yeah, so I think you know, we have a number of guys who have pitched at the you know, at the back end of games, and Hendricks and Chapman, of course, but also, you know, Slayton is a guy that I think deserves some consideration. You know, Whitlock is someone who I think can be deployed as a real weapon given his ability to throw multiple innings, and those could be multiple innings in a bridge-type role, or they could be multiple innings at the back end of a game. You know, Wilson is someone with a track record of pitching at the back end of games. So, you know, as things stand today, I think there'll be a level of competition that'll be really productive, and we've got guys with strong track records of being able to generate swings and misses at you know, the back end of games.
Alex has seen it go both ways, tried both things about, you know, a leverage guy deployed in whatever inning that requires versus here's your 8th inning guy, here's your 9th inning like you guys had last year. How do you want to do it?
Yeah, I think some of it is personnel dependent. You know, I think some certainty and stability is often helpful, but I think above all else, you know, one thing I've got supreme confidence in is the communication that'll take place between Alex and Bales and our pitchers in the bullpen, so that they'll know what the expectations are.
I think Hendricks might have been the first acquisition you made when you took over. You were close to it.
Trying to think through on the pitching side, or just
Well, I mean,
generally
one of the first ones.
Yeah, well, so a couple trades, right?
Yeah. I mean, how, you know, it's been a long time. How anxious are you to see him out there and you know, pitching?
Yeah, no, having him in a Red Sox uniform pitching meaningful innings is, you know, is something that I think we're all looking forward to. And, you know, I think given what he's overcome in the last couple of years, it's something that our fan base is going to get behind. And you know, the impact that he has had, despite the fact that he hasn't pitched in a big league game for the Red Sox yet, has been pretty remarkable. But there's no question we signed him because, you know, he's been a dominant closer in this game, and feel like he can handle the stage, you know, and help us preserve leads.
Physically, he's all, you know, no questions in terms of.
Yeah, physically he's full go.
Is there anybody at this point who hasn't, you know, won't be in camp on time?
No, not that, you know, I'm aware of.
When you look at guys like, you know, Chapman and Hendricks, and they have a decade of kind of proof in the pudding of what they can do, how do you evaluate them in a 6-week window here compared to that?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is going to be conversation, you know, and speaking to those guys, you know, getting feedback in terms of how they feel, how they're recovering, how ready they believe that they are, and needing to trust that when guys have the track record of success that each of those does, they've got a pretty good sense for where they need to be at kind of certain benchmarks throughout spring training, and we'll follow their lead. Obviously we have a ton of technology and data to track this, but at the end of the day, it's going to be Liam, it's going to be Araldus who tells us how they're feeling. And I looked out my window this morning, and Araldus was running sprints after I saw him in the hallway coming out of the weight room, so he seems to be raring to go.
Rafi's been here early. You guys asked him to come in early. You think that's going to make a difference? Rafi is someone who has kind of been a leader by example, by his actions, and has tremendous respect from the staff and from the clubhouse. And I think showing up early, working hard, committing himself to getting into great shape, to working on his game on both sides of the ball, like it's absolutely going to benefit him. But I think ultimately he needs to be healthy, he needs to stay healthy. And we've seen what a healthy Rafi Devers is capable of doing in the middle of the lineup. He carried us for weeks at a time, and expect a great season out of him.
But as you contemplate perhaps adding somebody during spring training to the Major League roster, how mindful do you have to be of maybe leaving room to be able to make in-season moves when it comes to payroll?
Yeah, I think given that I'm sitting here now and saying that we are focused on winning as many games in 25 as we can, and believing that we have a team that's capable of making the playoffs, my hope is that as we approach the trade deadline, we're going to be in a position to add, to supplement the roster. I've never been a part of a Red Sox team as a player or in this position where we haven't had the resources and support to do that at the deadline.
Several times throughout last season, Cora told us that he felt like the numbers didn't accurately depict Rafael Devers' defense. He thought his defense was a lot better than what the stat line might show. Do you agree with that, and how would you kind of assess where he's at defensively?
Yeah, I think we had focused on a few kind of specific goals that that Rafi worked really hard to accomplish, and defensive metrics can be misleading at times because of the sample and because of the way that one play can kind of skew the overall picture. But we've been happy with the work, and know that Rafi takes a ton of pride in his defense. Obviously the headline is what he does in the batter's box, but like I said, he takes a lot of pride in trying to be the most complete player that he can.
Obviously, a lot of buzz around Roman Anthony going into this camp. How do you look at where he's at?
Yeah, I think there's excitement around Roman, around Christian, around Marcelo, around others, and rightfully so. At the same time, I think it's important to be mindful of the reality, which is Roman is 20 years old and in his first big league camp, and obviously we're thrilled that he's a part of this organization. We're thrilled with kind of the current state of the farm system, but our job is not to win farm system rankings; it's to win big league ball games.
You talked about wanting, and you have extending some of your younger players to contract extensions. Where do you feel you'll be able to get another one or two of those players done by the end of spring training, or where do you stand on any of those negotiations?
Yeah, no, I think an important strategy, an important kind of pillar for us going forward is identifying the players that we believe can be impactful for a really long time and who embody what it takes to be successful in Boston, and trying to preserve those relationships and keep them in Red Sox uniforms for as long as possible. It's hard to forecast how successful we'll be, but I anticipate having a number of those conversations.
Is it safe to assume that you've had conversations in the past few weeks with some of these guys?
Yeah, I think kind of keeping the specifics to within a handful of people. Certainly, we've had those conversations, and at this point in time, they're general and kind of vague. But my hope is that they become more specific and ultimately lead to good outcomes for players and for the Red Sox.
How about some of those 0 to 3 guys, Craig? Would that fit into that same category? Maybe people that you've approached in the past and haven't been able to get deals with. deals done on extensions?
Yeah, I think we'll take a look through a pretty wide lens, and if there's an opportunity for things to line up, we certainly want to explore them, and also respect that each player approaches these situations a little bit differently.
Does having signed Theo and Raphael last spring give you any sort of template, or having kind of done it before with some young guys, or do you kind of approach it as every guy's very individual?
Yeah, I mean, I think it demonstrates a willingness to engage meaningfully, but every player makes a decision for slightly different reasons, and we need to be respectful of that. If there is the opportunity to find that overlap, then we want to make sure that we're giving it a chance. But also, if there's not, in the same way that I don't think we should acquire players simply for the sake of acquiring them, we shouldn't be extending players simply to be able to say that we've done it.
You were asked about a six-man during the offseason. And at this point, is it something, now that spring training's here, is it something that you are strongly considering?
We're definitely considering it. I think there are a few factors that will help determine the viability. Obviously, health is one, performance is another. We'll take a look at the schedule early in the season and try to optimize matchups and recovery. But it's definitely in consideration, I think, largely because we have a number of starting pitchers who are major league caliber who are capable of helping us win games.
Do you consult with them at all? If they would like it or not?
I think conversationally, but our responsibility and our, meaning the front office, the coaching staff, the medical staff, the strength staff, is to create opportunities for the players to be as successful as possible and perform their best. And so oftentimes it means less about are you interested or willing to throw in a 5-man rotation or a 6-man rotation, and more about how do we work together to create a routine, create a schedule that enables you to perform at your best.
Do you think modern pitchers are more amenable to that sort of thing than they were probably when you were playing?
Probably, as the innings totals for starting pitching has decreased. But also, a lot of this is a matter of how you characterize things, right? If you say, hey, you're going to pitch in a 6-man rotation, you get one type of response. If you were to say, hey, let's look at the data and figure out how many times you actually, kind of pitched in line with what a 5-man rotation would be, it's like most teams are already employing extra rest just by nature of the schedule, by weather, travel. And so, if you work backwards from the number of starts that a typical starting pitcher is making, what we're asking to do would not be revolutionary. Our hope is that it helps us get the best out of our players and keep them on the field.
If you were to do a 6-man, the fact that that obviously takes one full-time guy out of the bullpen. The fact that you have somebody like Whitlock who can cover multiple innings, how much of a sort of safety net is he in that scenario?
Yeah, I think that's kind of the necessary complement to a 6-man rotation, is having some combination of relievers capable of throwing multiple innings and optional relievers as well, right? Because there's going to be a point where either by weather or performance we get a short start, and you need to make sure that we're not taxing the bullpen, which is something candidly that we struggled with in the second half last year.
Are there any pitchers who started last year that you consider moving to the bullpen role, given that you have already more than 6 starters in camp?
Yeah, we'll see how camp plays out. It's always easier to shorten a pitcher than it is to lengthen them back out. But my guess is that there will be a number of pitchers who will probably throw in multi-inning roles this spring, but potentially piggyback, come out of the bullpen to do it, and then we'll evaluate, like I said, who gives us the best chance of winning.
Seems like our oldest came in pretty good shape.
Yeah, I think that statement's probably been true for the last 14 years. When you kind of think about the physicality of someone who's capable of throwing a baseball 105 miles an hour, he pretty much embodies it.
You guys have pretty much the same job, different ways to do the same job.
Yeah, no, I see how someone might confuse us as left-handed relievers.
Have you happened to see D'Angelo Ortiz walking around?
I haven't seen him yet, but have gotten great reports from the PD staff just in terms of like the work ethic, curiosity, open-mindedness, humility, which is really, really cool to see.
Yeah, obviously you must remember him running around.
I do.
You were playing stuff.
Yes. Yep. Still has a better swing than I do. All right. Thank you.